Hello and welcome to today's Bitrix24 webinar, Total Telephony. Thank you very much for joining today. Okay, so first of all, we'll just go through some introductions. So I'm Sam Connor and I'm sales manager here at Interface, and we are Bitrix24 Gold partners based in the UK. We're in the US and Hong Kong, and we offer a full range of services to assist you with Bitrix24. So, starting off with pre sale support, so we can help to analyze your requirements. We can then provide full implementation to set up the Bitrix24 system exactly how you need it to work. We can then also provide hosting services for the on-premise version of Bitrix, and we also then provide ongoing support and tailored training to help businesses get the most possible value out of the Bitrix24 system. Okay, so if you're joining today's webinar to actually learn a bit more about what Bitrix24 actually is, let's just discuss a bit about what this system encompasses. So Bitrix24 is a collaboration suite of well in excess now of 40 different modules that you can use to help you to manage your business. And there are over 15 million businesses now around the world that use the Bitrix24 system, and it's available in two different versions. So we have the Bitrix Cloud and we have the Bitrix self-hosted solution. Then in terms of pricing, so prices start from $49 per month for a basic cloud system. It's essentially a private cloud version of Bitrix. That's priced at starts at 3,590 US dollars for the first year. And then in year two and ongoing annually on that business 50 version, you'll pay a 50% renewal fee to continue to access this system. Okay, so that's a little there about what Bitrix24 is. So today's webinar is focusing on telephony. So we're going to take a look at how we can use the telephony functionality within Bitrix24. So first of all, why should you use Bitrix for telephony? So first of all, there is a built-in phone system that allows you to rent a number, and then you can immediately essentially start to use the phone network built into Bitrix. It's a really simple process, but it's also possible to integrate with an existing PBX if you want to keep your existing infrastructure. We have integrations with the CRM. That's a really powerful area of the solution. And we have reporting. And if you're going to use the built-in Bitrix rented number, it's a fairly low setup cost. So you can take advantage of the integration that we have available almost immediately. And that brings me on to the different options that we have for telephony. So first of all, we have Bitrix Telephony. So this will be renting a Bitrix24 number. So that's the first option that we'll take a look at today. And then the second option is an integration. So could be your PBX using the SIP connector. We can then feed your phone lines into Bitrix. Okay, so what we'll do first of all then in today's session, we're going to take a look at Bitrix telephony. So we'll see how we can set up a phone number rented from Bitrix24. We'll see how we can then configure the virtual phone system. And then we'll see how this ties in with the CRM, and we can have all of that call history integrated into Bitrix. And what we'll do, let's just jump across to our Bitrix system. If you have any questions as we go through the functionality here, please do just ask away, and we'll make this as interactive as possible for you. Okay, so you can put your questions into the YouTube chat box. We are live today on this webinar session. Okay, so the first option we've mentioned there is Bitrix telephony. So we're going to look at renting a number. So what we want to do is come into the telephony module here. And if you have permissions, then you'll be able to rent a number. So this is the blue icon here. We want to click on renting a number. And then we can select the region that we're wanting to rent for. So let's say if it's in the UK for myself, Then I can choose a type of number, whether it's a local, could be a mobile or a national or a toll-free number. And then let's say if I select a local, I can then select a region that I want to rent. Okay. And with this integration, let's say if I choose another number here, then what we're able to do is we can then rent that number. So that's going to cost, it varies depending on the country, the type of number, but approximately it's going to cost around $4 to $6 per month to rent that number. And for sub numbers, as you can see here, you need to upload a valid postal address to confirm you have a physical presence within that country to rent a number. So that's something you need to be aware of, that you may need to upload a verification documents, as you can see here. So we can rent that number. And one thing to be very clear on here is this will be a brand new number. It's not possible out of the box to rent a number that is your ported number. Okay, so this would be a brand new number that you rent. And then what we'll see is those rented numbers are going to be accessible here from the My Numbers section. And if we go into configure that number here, we can then see our numbers in the system. And what we can then do is we can start to build out our virtual phone system infrastructure for that rented number. So that's what's really nice with this functionality is every single number that we rent, we can customize the phone network setup for that number. So first of all, for inbound call routing, we can configure the welcome music, and we can then set up our different groups within the organization for maybe different departments. So here we've got a default group. We can set up groups for here. We can see our sales team. So if I click into this group, I could configure what people are within the sales team that are associated to that group. And then I can configure when a call goes to that group, how is that call distributed amongst the employees. So we can set up groups, and then that allows us to set up a voice menu here. So I can click into here and we can set up an IVR menu. So when the customer calls in, they get a recorded message to select an option to be distributed to a specific area of the business. So let's put in our IVR here. Okay, so we're typing out our message here. We can then select the language, the volume, and the speed that that message gets relayed to the customer. And then from here, I can select, for example, so for 1, we want to send that to our sales group. But if they press 2, we want to send that to the support team. So it's going to distribute that call correctly to the correct area of the business with that IVR setup. We then have CRM integration. So this is really a key area that you want to make sure you've set up so we can integrate with the CRM. And we can then also have calls recorded in the system if we turn on that feature. And you can play a warning message for inbound calls just to make the customer aware that this call is about to be recorded. Okay, we can also set up our working hours. So there may be times when we have our team accessible to receive and make calls. So you can set up your working hours. If someone tries to call out of hours, we can set up call processing. Okay, so we can then have that pre-recorded. You could upload a voicemail, or what you could also do, you might want to forward to a specific number where an out of hours call would be managed by a specific person, let's say. Then if we go into other, we can also set up backup phone numbers or pre-selected employees who can make calls using a specific phone number. And we've got the music and sounds feature for welcome music. So it allows you to really construct the virtual phone system for every number in Bitrix. Now, a really important feature, we get asked a lot about this, is obviously within the business, you don't want everyone to be making changes to those settings. So it's business critical. So what we have here is a permissions area. So what we can do is we can in here create different roles, and then based on that, the role that we create, we can then configure the access rights on that particular role. So this is from, say, being able to configure the telephony settings. We can deny access, for example. That's probably what you'll set up on the majority of the roles, but on others, we'll then just have that as an admin. You have the power to configure. So that's an important area to reference. Okay, so we've seen how that can work now. So, and this really, as we've seen, we can integrate with the CRM. It's a really key aspect to this, because what we can then do inside the CRM system is we can make calls directly through the Bitrix24 system. So I can call through here. We can also have that call history recorded inside the system. Or let's say if you're using here leads, we have a lot of call centers, use the lead area, then you can create lists. So call lists, so I can select a group of leads. Let's say I don't want to call those two right now. So I could start dialing directly through here. So you've got a semi-automated call dialing system. Or we could create a list. So in here, I might want to assign this list to one of our sales reps. So I can come into here and we can then create a call list. So we can then schedule that bulk dialing and then assign this out to someone through the system here. So I can select, let's say from here, I'm going to select who's responsible for this call list. Let's assign this to Mark. And then I can book this in as their activity into their calendar, so they can then manage that new lead call list in the system there. Okay, so that's how we can click to call through the system. And if you are managing inbound calls, as you most likely will do, when someone calls into your number, it's going to pop up with their details and have that call recorded in the system. And one other area the telephony integrates within the CRM is using automations. Okay, so if I click here on calls, then what we can do is set up a robocall. So at a certain stage of the lead or deal process, or in a stage of your sales process, you could set up an automated robocall. So pull in some information from the CRM. So then what will happen here is when we hit that stage of the sales process and this automation is triggered, it's going to call that lead in this circumstance. And when they answer that call, this message would get announced essentially to them as a robocall. So it can really work for as a way of targeting and working as a sales process through the system. Now, if we are using Bitrix telephony as well, a really valuable area is if we go back into telephony, we have our call statistics area. So all of that call data and information is going to sync into here. So we can do, first of all, dashboard reports, analyzing the call distribution amongst our teams. A really nice area here is we can look into the call density. So if you're a call center, we can analyze when we are most frequently missing phone calls. So this can help when we're looking to staff for future. So a really nice high level overview. Or we could drill down into employee performance here. So we can essentially focus down onto individuals or analyze employee v employee amongst their call distributions or average call durations as an example. So we have that dashboard reporting mechanism. And every call that takes place, we have the call details tab. So we can see the history of that call through Bitrix. You can configure the layout of this table. And what we can then also do is we could turn off different features or show specific pieces of detail, and then that can be exported into Excel. So it's a really powerful area of the system. As I say, out the box, all you need to do is rent a number and you have that accessible. And what we'll do here, I'm just going to send over the call rates. Okay, so it's an important aspect because within here, all of your inbound calls to that rented number, they're included in that monthly charge for the number. And then outbound calls, they're charged per minute based on the country that you are calling to. So that's something to bear in mind. So I'll just add this now into the YouTube channel. Okay, so let's just add that in there. Okay, so that there is a look at Bitrix telephony. And then the second option, we mentioned at the start, didn't we, that there are two options when it comes to telephony. So the second option is an integration. Okay, so this could be using either the Bitrix SIP connector, could be an app integration, or if none of those pieces of functionality would work for you, we could look at using the API as an integrator. And there are reasons why you would look at an integration instead of renting a number. It could be you've got a really competitive call package set up with your phone provider, or it could be if you have your own numbers that you've had for a significantly long period of time. You don't want to lose that number, so you need to integrate it into the system. So let's take a look at those integration capabilities in greater detail. Okay, so what we do here, again, we can go back into the telephony module. So just like where we were renting a number, but we're just going to look at a few different options. So the first option and the most popular option is using the SIP connector to connect your PBX into Bitrix. So we have the Office and we have the Cloud PBX. So I can click into there. And so if you have, here I'm going to show you the Cloud PBX connector. There is a form that you need to fill in. So if you have the credentials, you can send that to us. We can test this for you, or you can test it yourself. So we can fill in that form. And then you have an hour to test outbound calls to make sure that the connection is working correctly. And then if it does, you can then buy the SIP connector. So that's going to cost $49 per month. That's a flat charge for the SIP connector every month. And then you will just continue with the phone contract you have, and your numbers will feed into Bitrix. And again, it's exactly the same. It's just this is an Office PBX. So the form and the credentials, they're slightly different here for what needs to be filled in. But it's exactly the same SIP connector for $49 a month. So that's really the first option we would recommend looking at. The next option is, if we come down here, we have telephony integrations. So this is the marketplace on Bitrix24 where there are third-party applications. And so within here in the telephony area, there are integrations with some really popular phone providers. We see here 3CX, Ring Central, Asterisk. So there are options here where you could select the relevant phone provider, and then we can install that application. I think the majority of them are free. You'll just have to check for your phone provider. And then that allows some level of integration between your phone provider and Bitrix24. Each application and integration, it will differ on the amount of an integration. The tightest integration is if you rent a Bitrix number. That is the tightest integration. There's no way around that. So if you want to integrate your phone provider with your numbers, you may see the integration isn't quite as tight, but there are integration capabilities here. So that's the second option in terms of integrations. Now, the third option, if none of those will work, is we can look at using the API that Bitrix has available, and we could then build a direct integration between Bitrix and your phone system. Now, that could get expensive. It could be in the region of 15 to 20,000 US dollars as a guide price for you. But if that's something you're interested in, we've completed integrations before using that API to connect to phone providers. So do get in touch with us, sales@interface.com, and we can have a conversation with you to see what's the most appropriate integration solution. So let me just add our email address into the YouTube chat area. Okay, so that is a look there at integrations. Let's just see if we've had any questions. Okay, so question, how do we configure permissions? Okay, so yeah, if we come back into the telephony module here, so within the telephony module, you've got access permissions here. So all you need to do, if we click into the access permissions, what we do first of all is we create different roles. So the different role types, we can then assign an employee to that role. Okay. And on each of those roles, we can click into that role and we can then configure what the permission control is on each role. So let's say for managing the telephony settings, on the admin role, we're going to allow access, but on most of the roles, we just deny access so they can't configure that. So that's what we need to do there. And permission setup, it is really critical to making sure the system is set up correctly. So you can contact us, sales@interface.com, and we can, if you've already got this set up, we can audit that setup, but we could also help you to configure that as well moving forward. Okay, so we've talked quite a lot today about the different costs. So obviously Bitrix telephony, we've looked at the call rates. So outbound calls you'll pay per minute based on the country you're calling to. And I've put a link in there to those outbound call rates in the YouTube channel. If you're going to use the Bitrix SIP connector, that's going to cost you $49 per month. And then if we're looking at a direct integration, that could be in the region of 15 to 20,000 US dollars. Okay, reporting. So we've just seen earlier on about reporting. So we have the call dashboard tools to build out high level dashboard reports that analyzes that reporting information. And we also have the call details tab where we can see all of the information about every single call. And we can also then export as well into Excel. Okay, and so, in summary, today that brings us to an end of today's total telephony webinar. So, we've seen how we can set up Bitrix24 as a virtual phone system. We can also integrate existing phone providers into the platform, and there's several different choices for how that could be managed. And we have that integration with the Bitrix24 CRM, so we can have a really tight integration to feed call history into the contacts record in the system. And I think it really helps to give a lot more value to the CRM, having that communication call history saved in the platform. We've then also seen the reporting functionality. So how we can build out dashboard reports to analyze that call information. And as we've referenced quite a lot throughout here, it is a fairly low setup cost, especially if you're going to rent a Bitrix number. You know, you're looking around $4 to $6 per month to rent that number, and then you're away. You can start to use the telephony functionality within Bitrix24. Okay, so here are a selection of our upcoming webinars. So we're here every other Tuesday at 11 a.m. Eastern time, and you can register for those webinars at interface.com/webinar. So I look forward to seeing you all in the near future. And the recording of today's session is going to be on our YouTube channel very shortly for you to review. So thank you very much for your time today. I look forward to seeing you in the near future. Bye for now.